Hey, my name is Lee Plenty Wolf. I am a full-blood Oglala Lakota from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota, Turtle Island. Some call it USA, but that's where I was born, that's where I'm from, and that's where we have our most important, one of the most important ceremonies, our Sundance, is in my hometown in Manderson, South Dakota. I first received my vision there when I was 7 years old. And from then I was told that I was too young at the time. I talked to my aunt, my uncle, my grandpa, my mother, father, and they told me that they would pray for me that someday it will come back. The visions will come back. So since then, I have did everything in life that a normal person growing up would encounter. I worked and I went into the military, and I got out, and then I had was living a normal life, a common life like everyone else. And then I went back home 28 years ago because I needed help. And they told me that I had to go on the hill, the Vision Quest, and I had to start sundancing, in which I did. And the things that my prayers that were supposed to, that I was making, were going to come true in a quick way, which it did. And so since then, I have been doing our sacred ceremonies. And 8 years to 9 years after I started sundancing, my visions came back. There was 7 of them. And a lot of the visions that I have are from the medicine from the West, the thunder beings. The Wakia, we call them, the Wakia Oyate. And since then, I have been working and doing all different ceremonies to get to this point. My history is with the band of the Oglala, is with the band of the Crazy Horse people. My great-grandfather was second in command of Crazy Horse's Akichita, we call them, soldiers, and warriors. Our warriors are the most important to protect our people, and he was the second command. His best friend was Crazy Horse. So to look forward, to get back to the future, that all these ceremonies led me to become a Sundance chief and a spiritual leader for a lot of the people around South Dakota, in Colorado. And I have been traveling to do ceremonies all across the U.S. This whole issue with the pipelines in the U.S. came about when they were trying to put in the pipeline called Keystone XL pipeline. And when they tried to do that, I made a vow to load my sacred pipe, we call it a chanupa, load my sacred pipe, and we have an eagle staff that we use in all ceremonies. It has eagle feathers on it and buffalo hair and horse hair. And so I was going to hold that and stand in front of the pipeline and pray that it will not be complete. When I made that vow, I made it in one of our sacred ceremonies, the Inipi ceremony. And I knew that if I said that in there, I had to keep my word. But when Keystone XL was not built, they could not build it, they stopped, I was good with that. It made me happy that it couldn't be complete. Everything went okay for a while, and then we heard about this Standing Rock, the DAPL pipeline. And so the vow that I made kept on pulling me towards Standing Rock. But I couldn't really afford to get there. And so I said, well, that's not the one that I made a vow to. Maybe it will be okay. But as time went on, it's kept on pulling me towards towards the Standing Rock. And so I finally decided that maybe I should try to get there. And there was attempts that I made, and everything started to work out. There was different situations where people helped me get close to there, and then from there I made it up there to Standing Rock. And when I first got there, there were only 7 council fire teepees that were put up, and the northern the Cheyenne River tribe had their warriors or veterans camped right there up above near the main gate. And then down below there was maybe 4 or 5 little tents, camping tents down there. So I drove down there and chose the 4th one, and then all the other Ogalas came in on bus, and then they took over all the tents. But when I first got there, I asked where I should camp, and they told me to camp across the river where I was not protected by the reservation, but on the land that the Army Corps of Engineers had in possession. They were authorized to have that strip of land along the river. So when I made camp, we made camp there, and that vow, the timing on that was you can't say too coincidental, because things work out the way they're supposed to. And the next morning when we woke up, they called us to a meeting, and the keeper of our sacred bundle, the white buffalo calf woman, sent a pipe, a chanupa, down to our people so we can live, so we can continue to have that direct connection to the Creator, a great mystery, Tunkashila we call him. And so when he was there, he called for a meeting, so we all went up, and I took my chanupa and the eagle staff and went up to that meeting. My son was with me then, and my daughter-in-law, and when we went up to the meeting, he told us that we were going to be marching all the way up the road to the entrance to where the pipeline crossed the road. And there was a gate there, and they wouldn't let us onto that property, but we were supposed to march all the way up there. And it was a good maybe a quarter of a mile. But anyway, they called for our society warrior to be up front. And society warrior is Tokala, which means that he gave up his life to protect the people. And so he will be up front. And then behind him, we're going to be the eagle staffs. And then behind the eagle staffs, we're going to be the Chanupa carriers, the Chanupas. Then behind them was the different tribes. And when we got put in our positions, the main group was, they told all the Ogalas to go up front, which meant that we're a warrior society, we're a warrior tribe. And so what we had to do was go in battle first, because we always have done that. And this is so-called protection for all the rest of the people. Well, the people, we all got in line and we all went up there. We had a drum group, and we had horseback warriors on horseback escorting us on horses. They escorted us all the way up. As we sang, they sang for us as we went walked all the way to the entrance. When we got to the entrance, we prayed. The keeper, or Orville-looking horse, went and he prayed. And I noticed that the Chanupas there was 7 of them. And our sacred number with everything in life is 4 or 7. And so there was 7 Chanupas. And then we prayed and we smoked the Chanupas with all the people that were there. There must have been maybe, I'd say, around 400 to 500 people that first time. And so we prayed, and then I noticed that the eagle staff carriers were standing in front of that gate. And I counted, and there was 7 eagle staffs. And nothing in a sacred way comes in coincidence. So I knew that this was the way it's supposed to be according to the Creator. And so we prayed, we sang more songs, and then we went back. He said, let's go back to camp, rest up. And then the next day they called another meeting, same thing happened. So that first day I carried the eagle staff up there. The second day when we did the same thing, I carried my Chanupa up there. My son carried the eagle staff. And when we got up there and did all those prayers and those singing, and then when we finished, we started to go back, and I said, okay, Tukashila, Creator, I have done what I said. I have finished my vow that I have made. I have prayed, I have carried the eagle staff, and that pipeline is still coming. They're still trying to put it in the ground. And so we went back to camp, and on the 3rd morning, I woke up, and usually when I wake up, I get up before the sun comes up, when it gets barely daylight. And I came out and I usually look to the east towards where the sun is going to come up and pray, but on that 3rd day, for some reason, I turned to the north. I turned towards the main entrance to the camp. And I had a vision of Wounded Knee, the first time that it happened in the late 1800s. The things that I seen were the old way where the cavalry went and killed all our people. They started shooting, and all our people were trying to flee, and they got killed. That vision came to me, and it still gets me emotional because I think back at it, and I cried a little, that morning, and so I went and I finished my prayer, and then after I finished my prayer, I was sitting there. trying to think of how we were going to do this. And my son woke up with him and his wife. They came out and they asked me when we were leaving that day, and I said, we're not leaving. Because I told them about my vision that I had, that it's not possible that we leave. And so what happened is, after that, we stayed, and more people came in. More and more campers came in. And so it started to grow and grow and grow. And at the same time, different groups of societies or groups of people came in and more or less did whatever that they needed to do in order to figure out how we were going to stop that pipeline. But I myself was worried about the people, the safety of all people, not just our side, but the other side too. And the other side is it's supposed to be the people who work for the pipeline company, the oil company. And I noticed that the law enforcement and the National Guard were protecting the oil company. And since we were nonviolent, and that we, as nonviolent water protectors, where our focus was, we didn't have any weapons, any kind of anything to protect ourselves. And they had all the rifles, and they used rubber bullets, but we also know that they had live rounds that they also carry too. So these different groups would go up there and we'd stand and had to express our feelings of why that pipeline should not go through, because the water is the most important thing that the Creator gave us. It's the first medicine that the Creator gave to all people. And that first medicine is what we had to protect. And it took young people, and mostly the young women of the Standing Rock tribe, to get this going. And so what it is that when we try to protect this water, not just for Standing Rock, but everybody down that river, because down that river there's ranchers and there's farmers. The ranchers will have to get their livestock fed. They drink that same water that's called the Missouri River. And in order for them to raise the livestock to sell to market so everybody can have meat, they needed good water. And it was jeopardizing that. The farmers, it was jeopardizing the crops. Because if you don't take good crops to market, then what happens is the consumer is not going to have food to buy. And if there's no food to buy, then there's a food shortage. And then where else are you going to, and it's happening, over and over again. Another thing too is that if that oil leaked into the system, into the river, and also the northeast corner of that pipeline is really close and over what we call the Nebraska Aquifer, which is a main underground water storage area, sort of natural, that covers the middle part of the United States. And if that gets contaminated, then a lot of people throughout wouldn't have good drinking water. There's a lot of things that depended on good water. There's the wildlife that live all over the place. They drink the water. There's the medicines that grow along. A lot of these are medicines, that need that water to survive. Man is mostly made of water, and so we need that water as the medicine to continue life. And what happened there was that they were jeopardizing that, and they were protecting the company, the oil companies, because of profit, because the higher up, they all the way from the government down, want to profit off of the oil, which they've been constantly doing. Now there's fracking going on all over the place, which stirs up our grandmother Earth, and what happens then is it aggravates the volcanoes, and it aggravates, it starts all these little earthquakes and aggravates everything else, and so the storms, the climate change continues, plus all the things that the chemicals that go up in the air. It's like this all over the world, and it's like the more money that they make, the better off that there are certain people, we call them the 1%, will be. But they're forgetting about the majority of the people, and the majority of the people are the ones that put those people into office and made it so that, you know, we have to be dependent on whatever that they put out there, including food, bad food that is that has GMO, that has chemicals in it, that's not good for human or animal consumption. And so everything has to go back to the organic, the natural way of growing things. And what it is now is that man all over the place are taking in stuff that aren't good for you, and that includes the water. The thing that we should do in order to try to change, because climate change is for real. Climate change is all over the place, and if we don't reverse that, if we don't change our way of living, then we're on the road to self-destruction. And self-destruction of man was already happening, but it gets, because of technology, it's getting faster and closer, and we're advancing that time faster nowadays. We need to go back to solar power, wind power. We have the technology to do that, but because some of these companies are too big, and because they have the financial support and the government support for all over the place, they have their way in everything that they do. But when I was up at Standing Rock, I had a second vision. The second time I left for a little bit and I went back, and the second vision was that we have to stay in prayer. All the people have to put prayer first, and we cannot turn towards violence. We have to stay in prayer. And so I had meetings. I was made one of the camp leaders because 3 of them couldn't fulfill their job requirements, so to speak. And I was only helping one because when I started off, I was going to have meetings with him, and I finally tried to get the people to ask some kind of legal observers, some kind of legal help. And I know of a couple places where we could get legal help. And so I was trying to have somebody officially request legal help. Everybody said okay, but nobody ever did anything. Finally, I called, and they came in. Department of Justice came in, and the legal observing part is because we knew that the things that they were doing were illegal. We didn't do nothing illegal except to get hurt. And so in order for them to either get an excuse to kill us all, I needed legal observers there to make sure that they didn't do anything to just go ahead and eliminate us. I asked for more and more legal observers, and then we had meetings with the other side, with the National Guard and with all the people, the governor's office and different departments of law enforcement, the highway patrol, the sheriff. And when I did that, I put my chanupa on the table at all these meetings, and one time they asked why I did that, and I said, it's because if you, in front of this chanupa, you have to speak the truth, and if you don't speak the truth, then I wouldn't want to be you. Well, all the things that were talked about, in the end, they didn't speak the truth. So Creator works in a way where we have to keep our word of whatever we say spiritually. And Creator, through prayer, I think will help us. But it needs to happen worldwide. And we all people who care about life, and for instance, our young people that were up there, we call them the seventh generation, the young people that led all the confrontations or put their lives online are the seventh generation. And the way I see it is we have to give all support to the seventh generation, all the young people around this world, because now there's a thing called awakening. Awakening is when they all realize that there's something more important here on earth than just the government, the governments who get their way, the corporations who get their way. There's something more to it than just letting everything go. The climate change is one of the things, because that's why as time goes on, and I've seen this a long time ago, as time goes on, the storms and the earthquakes and tsunamis and everything, the natural disasters, the way that Grandmother Earth is trying to purify herself, are going to get bigger and bigger. And sure enough, they started getting bigger, and it slowly is happening. Every year there's more and more and bigger. And now we had, I guess, one of the record high, or the biggest hurricane that went into the United States on the East Coast that was ever recorded. And it's going to get bigger, and a lot more volcanoes and things are going to get bigger because of the climate change. Those things that need to be changed, we have to support the seventh generation, the young people, to make changes for us, because if they don't, their children and their grandchildren won't have very much time to live. Everything's normal to people nowadays because they think that if it doesn't affect them, that everything is okay. But it does affect everybody around this world. And so my main message is that the same thing that the Creator has given me is we have to stay in prayer, but we also have to come together. And we also have to, because overall, there's more people than these governments and corporations. So there's more people to take action and make changes to our food, make changes in the way we consume oil, gas, make change, to go to solar power, go to wind power, I heard not too long ago that I think it was the Japanese that came out with a car that runs on water. You know, there's a lot of things that were invented a while back, but because the corporations are too big, they're not possible to be put out to the public. And we need to start doing things like that and working together in that way. But the number one thing is that prayer that everybody needs. That's what the message from Creator is, and that's what we need to do. And so I think that after Standing Rock, and now they're having issues about that pipeline. It already leaked 3 times, and they also said that everything that they did to get that pipeline through was illegally done. And so now the judge is talking, he's trying to decide and talking to other people in the judicial system of what to do next. But I know that they have to have the environmental impact study, which was by law supposed to happen when anything like that when they're trying to build something like that. But that was ignored. That was put aside, and they okayed the pipeline to go through. So I think what's going to happen is they're going to figure out when that's going to be done, and if oil is still flowing through, and if they should shut that pipeline down through prayer, I think they would have to. There's a lot of things that were done illegally. Up at Standing Rock, there was civil rights violations, human rights violations, animal abuse, elderly abuse. Our one of our sacred ceremonies, the Inipi ceremony, the purification ceremony. They built a sweat lodge on there. They were in there praying with a chanupa, and they went in there and tore all that up. They took all the sacred items and threw it into a pile, and they pulled everybody out and arrested them. So that's one of the biggest violations that they did to our people, the Lakota Nation. And the other violations were they shot horses, and they said that once they were injured, they couldn't live any longer, so they went and killed them because they didn't want them to suffer. But then, why shoot them in the first place? There's a lot of things that a lot of our rights were violated. Constitution was ignored, and now it brought light to the fact that there's a lot of things wrong in this world. A lot of things, the wrong leadership, for instance. There's a lot of things that we need to help the 7th generation change in order for all life to continue on or live longer. Because sooner or later, the population is going to get bigger, and there has to be a way to either go back and live more healthier, or the food and the air or the natural disaster, it's going to kill us. So anyway, the main thing is to stay in prayer and to come together, to spread this word all the way around the world, so we can all come together, because this problem just isn't in South Dakota, it just isn't Standing Rock. It's all over the place. The jungles, rainforests are getting destroyed, trees are being taken down, pipelines are going all over the place. There's a lot that's happening that it shouldn't be happening. So anyway, that's it. Hello. Okay, I wanted to explain to the people that our sacred pipe, what we call the chanupa, is a stone that's only found in one place, and it's in America, in a state called Minnesota. And in that one place, it represents from history from the blood of our people are all gathered, flowed into that one place, and it turned into a rock. So when the Creator came down, sent the white buffalo calf woman down to give us our teachings and how to use this chanupa, then what happened is he showed us where to get this stone. They call it pipe stone, and where to get it and how to fix it and how to get the stem made of ash, and put the hole through. And what happened is if we do it that way, and she taught us 7 sacred ceremonies, and it all goes back to numbers 4 and 7. So she taught us the 7 sacred ceremonies on how to use that chanupa, because our people are having a hard time. And so when you put it together and smudge it down, you have a direct communication from our people to the Great Spirit, the Great Mystery. We call him Tukashila. So in that way, every time we need to pray, the tobacco comes from a plant called red willow, chashasha. We get the bark off, and then we make our tobacco, the natural old tobacco that we still use it to this day. So I just wanted to explain why we have that chanupa and the direction that were given to us by the white buffalo calf woman in order to make that contact between us and the Creator. But I wanted to sing this song to say that Creator, have pity on me. Me and my relatives want to live. And it's appropriate because of the situation that we're in nowadays all over this planet, all over this world. So this song is for that. chi Om Kiyayo Ya mitake pi ya leta lom se waglushtan olon kile yat kon kashe la mechik tu za taku waglushtan na as nie cha oyate ke cha wichonikte na mane wichoni ya ki he o shim khajota ki he trokea na trokea le khajota onyak opichavo pela tranko kendi cha pelo nie cha na chono pa na o cheke kile na o troka he unzakta cha hem se lila Ashte na pilon ya pelo chataku waglush na emichik tu jayo ya tokshale chanya makha ka makinkte yeah through the song creator I know you taught us and directed us prayer comes first and that we pray for the water because that's the first medicine you have given us and so this song forgive me I sing this in a good way and that for all people all over this world, and that the medicine, you help us protect that first medicine, that water, agua ki hai. Hai chetu leho, opila trinka. Mitak